Hi guys. I wanted to start a live about intuition and fear. So recognizing the difference between those two. I'm gonna wait a little bit just to see if more people will join this. I am shadow banned at the current moment, so I'd rather speak about something that is not about the whole narrative of the virus and the injections and all that. I've spoken much about that on other channels, but I prefer today to speak a little bit about intuition and fear. I think a lot of us who have been through the whole pandemic, realizing what a toll it has taken on so many people during the pandemic, just during lockdown. If I have to use myself as an example, I would say the fear that has been generated while I was, thank you for in the comments in this live as well. And I know a lot of you people are Danish, but since I'm gonna, share this later on my wall, then I'm doing it in English. But there's a lot of fear, I think, that's been really growing in a lot of people during this pandemic, and including me, actually. I've been really trying to fight the current situation that's been going on and is still going on. I know a lot of people think everything is over and it's done. I just wanted to touch ground on that fear part, because fear has really been growing a lot inside me. And I think it's fear that I always had. I think one of the reasons for me really wanting to, fight back. I say fight because I don't think you can't fight war with war. I think it's John Lennon or something that said something similar. But the thing is, I realized that I had fear already inside me, and I had that since my childhood, growing up with a harsh dad that was very strict and violent at times. And that has kind of trained me to see when I live in some kind of fascist government or whatever. But it's not about the government today. It's just about what happened. And in my childhood, I've had it pretty tough sometimes. I think compared to other people in other places, I probably did very good. But I did have a harsh dad, and I did actually was lucky to choose that I could go to a boarding school instead of being around him. But I did love him, but I always sought his attention and his loving kindness, which there wasn't a lot of. But he was always, you would never really know what his mood was. And that eventually led me to being trained as a very young age. I have memories of being trained forcefully, not by him, but like trying to figure him out, trying to find out why my dad was like the way he was towards me, like the pain that he was putting me through. He would, throw my toys out, or he would burn them, or he would maybe even take them without me noticing. He would hit me if I ever replied back to him, or he didn't like my attitude, even if it was like a normal situation. If I didn't finish my food, he would probably hit me in my ass. On my ass. And so he was quite strict. And what I learned from this is to be aware that I always question things like, why is he like this? What have I done wrong? How can I manipulate myself and him to avoid this pain? And I just remind myself that I put on my, these new Instagram things, you can put a tiny little short tweet or something in your messages. It's like on top of your messages on the new Instagram app. And I think I put, what would you rather go through 10 minutes of pain or a lifetime of, I think gain. I wrote gain because it rhymes, but of understanding that you learned from your lessons. And I think I learned a lot from the lessons of having a strict dad. But I want to get to explain that fear started in me, and that actually the fear of going through pain in childhood because of a strict dad led me to actually have a better intuition. And my better intuition is that I took the education of becoming a clairvoyant. In English, clairvoyance it's not a popular word, but you would probably say like a medium or a spirit, someone who could talk to spirits or foresee the fortune teller that can see your future. I was trained for this in an education in Copenhagen that trains us to do this in a year, an ongoing, tough year, definitely, but very skillful year that I really appreciate. Probably one of the best things I've ever done is to go to that education. So if you yourself want to be trained in your intuition and everything, I do recommend going to a school like this. And even you watching this right now, getting curiosity about that, it might be an invitation for you to actually do something about that. But we all have the skill of intuition. And the thing is, with intuition, it always kicks in the weird times. Sometimes we'll feel fear, and we will also have intuition of what to do. But there's a difference, and that's what I really want to, I think that's the point of me talking about this today, is all the pain you go through will end up being a gift somehow. And it doesn't mean that the pain was okay, that my father could eventually, if he was alive, be like, well, there you go, son, that's what I wanted you to become. No, it's actually the opposite. I think he didn't want me to become anything like that. He was very much against everything. He was a doctor. I came from that whole narrative that we've seen through the pandemic, that doctors are always right. They know best. And I realized after many, many, many years of studying and understanding why I got sick and why I had all these issues after getting injections, that he recommended, and he even gave them to me. I even gave him injections, but yeah, it was that older, so he wouldn't react the same way to getting injections as I did. But all in all, I mean, all these things ended up for me questioning things and listening to my intuition and understanding. Again, thank you for the comments, Buster. And listening to my intuition and understanding the gifts that I got from going through all that pain. And I mean, we avoid pain so much, and we want to understand, why am I going through this? Do I have anxiety towards these things? Why do I have phobias? Why do I have all these things? And usually it's because of some conditioning through your childhood. It's a conditioning of really what you learned of you've seen other people do. So if you're treated really badly, I see there's a tendency, if you treat it badly, you kind of want to treat other people badly because that's how you grew up, especially if you think, oh, I benefited from this. And even knowing that my dad was not a good dad in those aspects of bringing me up, of like giving him a safe and comfortable, loving upbringing, my mother kind of compensated. So that's why I kind of got out of it in a good way. I kind of got the good cup and the bad cup on my shoulder, or like the devil and the angel, and but also understanding that later on that my mom was also somewhat participating in the devil's work, which were my dad, because she would protect him and stay with him. And so I grew up being like, oh, I can't trust relationships, maybe because, you can stick together for your whole life, but that's just a life of pain. I saw my mother being through all this and always complaining to me. I ended up being her psychiatrist, which is never healthy if you have a child that you use to tell all your inner secrets and share things that children should not worry about. You should stop doing that. That's not healthy, not for the child and not for you. So those relationships, really, I learned so much from it, and eventually I developed this intuition and the reason why I developed it was actually because of all that pain my dad put me through. I didn't want to come home from school. I didn't look forward to coming home, because if my dad was angry or pissed off or something like that, I would have anxiety of coming home thinking maybe it's going to hit me or throw my toys out. And I would hide things so he wouldn't. There we go. I'm sorry, guys. I was, lost the connection here. Which is funny when we talk about intuition. There's always a reason for these things happening, if you ask me, because I'm very, always trust whatever happens is happening for a reason. But so I developed my intuition because I didn't want to go home to my aggressive dad or like fastest dad. And so to avoid coming home to him and getting those harsh lessons of being around someone who's a tyrant, who really liked the power and really enjoyed sometimes me having a harsh time. Every time everything would succeed for me, I'd be like happy. I kind of experienced that he always wanted to take that away from me. And you might think that's very evil of him. I'm sure he did with the best he could, even if he did have probably some evil intentions or not very kind intentions. But I think it was a fight against him and my mother. So she was smothering me because he was really being harsh towards me. So it's kind of a vicious cycle. But all in all, I'm sitting here today. It's not like he was more crazy than ruining me. I actually built myself up from that. And the intuition started by not coming home from school and kind of feeling his mood. In the beginning, I would come home from school, didn't know if he was angry or anything. I kind of forgot it every time because that was my survival mode, was ignoring the facts and ignoring the whole situation of maybe, something was going on at home. I didn't know, but every time, I had a harsh day or something felt horrible, that I would kind of forget these things very easily. I wouldn't be present with it. So he would be harsh towards me, and I would literally an hour later forget that he even, I'm gonna turn off the TV thing that's blinking. Anyways, so I realized that coming home, I started looking at how is his car parked? It's a little skewed, maybe. Oh, he's probably in a bad mood. Oh, his jacket is there. It's probably because of this and this. And I started reading all these things that I thought meant how he felt. And later on, I started to feel into those things, like how he parked the car. And I would call it a bit of energy that he left behind. So parking the car, he was just in the car, his jacket, he just wore his jacket. So I would actually start reading the energy of the things that he left or that I saw or that I had witnessed. And I realized that I could find some answers in that. And in the beginning, I'm sure it didn't make a lot of sense at all. But that was how I was trying to figure out how to avoid this pain. I didn't want to go through the pain of him telling me how to be and how not to be and be so strict. So I would look into all these things and hoping that this would give me some kind of notion how I could avoid the pain of him being strict that day. And though, mind you, there was so many other days that was very, kind and loving, and there was nothing wrong. And I loved those days when he was like high on life and be like, here, I bought some ice cream. And, he was bipolar in some aspects. I think he only got diagnosed when he was older, like 70 or something. But, yeah, so again, thanks for the comments. You sort of get the facts about the vax, so that's usually what I talk about. That's why we follow each other. But yeah, that's how I developed my intuition. Is actually eventually, a few years later, I could, those signs I was reading when I came home, I could read them while being at school. So the same energy I would read without knowing that this wasn't like common for everyone to do this, but it's very common for people who've been through fastest lives or lives around narcissists or psychopaths, people in relationships with them, or in family with people who have bipolar disease or anything. And bipolar could, you could function normal on having bipolar if you really want to, but also being a narcissist, you have less of a chance of being a really good person, I think. But I'm not saying you cannot be a good person. I'm just saying that's a lot of self-development you need to go through. So all in all, I could sit at school and know I didn't want to come home that day. And, in the beginning, I just had this feeling in my stomach, a gut feeling or intuition. And I would realize that this intuition was either based on fear, because the reason why I developed this skill was because I was fearing getting hurt. And so that fear led me to being taught by myself, by trial and error, basically, to know what was going on in my life and how my dad was feeling and all these things. So all in all, I developed this skill of intuition because of pain, because of being in a horrible situation of pain, of my dad on and off using my happiness to put me down or something like that. And so eventually I would not come home. And at that time, we didn't have mobile phones yet. So I would call home to my dad and to my mother's phone and be like, has dad come home? And And I would even ask friends if I could go with them at their place. And usually we'd always find friends who had really loving families, who were really, probably like my mom was, but then the dad wasn't annoying or horrible. And so I would find friends who had like a really loving, open home. And if we had guests at home, my dad would be, open and trying to be happy and all his patients. He's an eye surgeon. They loved him. But when he came home, he had zero energy left because he probably used it on all his patients. And the reason why he was so good at his thing is because he also had the gift of healing, but he used it also to his benefit because, that's what narcissists do. They do read energies and they understand how energies work, but they're not great generators of energy themselves. So they use other people to withdraw or like pull these use their intuition to kind of suck the energy out of others. But I don't think he did that with his patients, but he did lie a lot to them. But he just knew that lying to them could help them, like placebo. I'm going to give you this eye medicine and it's going to help you, but really was salt water. And so he kind of knew that, you can really manipulate people in a positive way as well by telling them it's different. Because if you told him this medicine probably won't work, then he would say like 70% of the knowledge that we have of doctors is that they know placebo exists, which means that I'm pretending to do something to you or pretending to do surgery on you, but really I don't do anything. You just have a scar and you realize that, oh, now I feel better, because your belief of self-healing, you didn't know that was self-healing, but you would just be healing because you think the doctor helped you. And that we know all this from psychology of studies, that if you just put a white doctor's gown on, or shirt, you can actually heal people by just telling them that they will feel better and that you can heal them. So he was, he'd had skills, and he would be, having the patients who would love him to this day when they hear my last name and I meet them, and then would be like, oh, was that your dad? Oh my God, he saved my brother's eyesight. Or he was very loved by his patients. I'm sure there's some patients that didn't like him either, but mostly he was liked a lot. And so all these skills I got from learning from him being that narcissistic type of person and bipolar, changing moods all the time. One day he could be like, let me give you gifts. And I'm like, tomorrow I'm getting a gift. And I get home and said, I never said that. He would be gaslighting me. So all these things taught me so much about the psychology of not only myself. At first, I would just be in reaction to him, trying to please him, always trying to figure him out so I can make him in a better mood or help him. If I could just do something to avoid that he would be angry, then everything would be great. And who did I learn this from? My mother, of course. That's how she could be in a relationship with him, thinking that she could change how he was and how he felt and how the day was going to be good or bad. So she taught me also to manipulate those around us who are not treating us well, by actually pleasing them and giving them energy so they could feel better, so they won't hurt me. Really, that is just super unhealthy, and that's typical of, I'm gonna say, us pleasers. I know I have a lot of followers who are also pleasers, and I mean it's very common for us to please other people. But the thing is, our intuition is very good. You will start feeling other people's energy and feel how they are and what they do, and just understand that there's, thank you for sharing. Also, there's one in the comments that says, I know my mom was like that, just like your dad. Yeah, and that's how we learn. And I think that's why so many of my followers and we connect. I even know some of us, we write privately often, and we reach out to each other because we all been through this thing. And I think that's why it's part of what also kept us awake, kept us very independent in some ways, but also in some unhealthy ways. We're probably not very good at asking for help, literally reaching out. I would guess that most of my followers would actually be people who are really great at helping others, but tend to forget themselves a little bit. Or someone who really easily feel a victim of some emotion and they don't know what to do about this emotion, and they kind of walk around with it and feel off or like wrong or like not good enough. And that's typical pleaser behavior, if you ask me. And the thing is that you would see, maybe this is something that resonates with some of you out there. you would do things to make other people feel better. So you would walk into a room, let's say there's a party and you walk into this room. I remember also sharing this in my podcast, a Danish podcast called Fucking Passionated. But you would walk into this room, and as a pleaser, the thing is that the first thing you would notice is people not feeling great. You would not notice the people who are you probably notice them, but you wouldn't be super interested in them. But you would see the people who are very happy and be like, oh, they're enjoying themselves. And then you'll be like, while you're laughing at their jokes or enjoying them, like participating in whatever they do, you would notice the people who wouldn't laugh, or the people who would be, in the corner, or just having a very, one-to-one talk with someone. And you would touch into that energy and be like, oh, it feels like this person is sad. Let's call it a she, because this happened to me many times. Because I have like a distorted version of masculinity, which is why I really dig into masculinity a lot, trying to help other people to heal that part of themselves if they want to. And so I would find the feminine, because that's what I would know very well from my mom, and also being the feminine of healing, and the intuition is all typical. You need to touch ground with your feminine side to understand that part. And I would find someone in that party that I could talk to, that I could fix, I could heal them, because I could see all their issues. And it's like, oh, she has this, she probably thinks this, and she probably feels this way, just as I would with my dad. But I didn't have that understanding at that time. So at that point of time, so I would just, go to them and have like a evening long talk with them about what they can do with their life, and really get them to share with me. And I would share back and be like, you could do this, and it's going to be great, and don't worry. But the thing is, what I didn't realize is also when I felt someone who was a really bad mood, or someone who was ruining, the evening, not being, someone who was a little bit off, who would, every time someone would joke, they would be very serious. That's not nice to say. Those typical people that always, they kind of want the attention, to have negative energy, and they would be at that party. And instead of ignoring them, which most people would, I would be like, yeah, but think about it, it's good, or what? Let's go over here, or tell me about your life. I would spend my energy and my time to get them to not hurt the rest of the people in the group by being annoying, or anxious, or having some negative attention. So the bad thing about this, in general, as healers, we should have the notion and understanding of ourselves and where we come from. In my story, I come from a narcissistic, bipolar dad that had a lot of issues with his self-worth, and also used people to, feel better. But he would usually never arrive to those parties, because he would feel like he had to put on a persona of being this very outgoing person that he really wasn't. But he was very good at this, and he loved, the ping pong thing of, having fun with friends. He would still love it, but it would take a toll on him, and he would drink, and then, it would take him 2 days, maybe 3 days to get normal. And there might always also be a week of him being low mood, and it would, it would hurt us all, because he would just kind of run the family on that type of mood. And the thing is, if you have experienced anything and like what I experienced in my life with my dad, and you can rewatch this live after I'm going to post it, even though it is very, personal, but I'm sharing my experience so you know that you're not the only one who has been hurt or going through pain or something like that. But I'm also trying to say that there's some good things, there's some good features about getting through, there's some good things about going through tough times sometimes. And eventually it's going to shift. So, if you at that party try to heal the broken ones, or you want to fix or manipulate the ones that's hurting other people without actually telling them off, be like, that's not an okay behavior. I want you to leave. If you want to talk to people like this and ruin this party, I want you to leave. That would be a normal way of reacting to other people being idiots towards others at a party, right? You want to throw them out because they're ruining the party. But if you keep ignoring them, they're going to keep trying to, you try to manipulate them to become in a better mood. You would actually participate in them staying there and accepting their behavior, but trying to change it instead of saying, fuck no. because that's very important to say sometimes, to really have some clear boundaries. But if you tend to try to fix people that way, you might actually think of you being manipulating. You will be manipulating other people to feel better instead of letting them have that bad day, letting them have that emotion that makes them behave that way. So it might be the silent type sitting in the back feeling sorry for themselves. But instead of you fixing it, you allow them to just have that experience, and you let them teach themselves instead of you dictating, oh, no, come join. Why are you sitting there? So you don't, no, come participate. Don't be that way. Let's all just get together and have, that's manipulation as well. Instead of being, hey, do you want to join in? And they'll be like, no, it's okay. Let them be in that emotion, because they would never understand how to move away from that emotion if they don't know how to do that themselves. If they play the victim, and I've been the victim many times, sitting in the corner being like, no, it's okay, you guys, you just you drink your shots, that's okay, I'm just gonna have my only drink, and whatever it is. So all in all, I mean, it's important to know that if you manipulate other people's energies by trying to be overly nice, overly kind, I'm not saying we can't help anyone, but I'm just saying at a party, the best thing you can do, because you're a healer, if you feel that is what you are, and you realize some of the same traits that I have, that you also are driven by them, is to let people sit in their emotion. What you can do is recognize them and hold space for them and be like, I see that you don't want to participate. Are you okay? And they can be like, yeah, I'm fine. I just don't feel like it. Then you be like, okay, but I'm sure if you wanted to, you could join. But yeah, enjoy. And then you leave them alone and let them sit with that emotion, because that's okay to have that emotion, even at a party. Someone needs to feel down at a party for someone to feel really high and laughing and joyful. I mean, if you think about how the universe is built by negativity and positivity, that you need negative to, like, it's like a magnet. You need positive and negative ions to, like, interfere. That's how you create a balanced room. It's not that you need someone sitting crying in the corner to have someone laughing in the other one. No, but I think you get what I'm trying to say. So if you find yourself manipulating with people, trying to make them feel in a better mood by using your energy in a compensating way of not being authentic. Because if I'm not being authentic right now, being, oh, are you okay? Can I give you anything? Are you sure you don't want to join? Because we're just, everyone is included. You don't have to sit here and feel sorry. Like, we haven't tried this game either. That would be me overcompensating. But me being authentic and be like, hey, I see you. Are you okay? Because you seem a little bit off. That'll be a different way of approaching them. If it's someone being like, you fucking douchebags, you think you're so funny, or even I met someone yesterday that was like, men are so annoying. Like, you can't trust guys. They're such a dickheads. I mean, I hate men. Well, at least, some of them treat me as a princess. And I think that's great. I mean, that you feel that way, because it just shares a story of why you go through so much pain. So if you find yourself trying to fix those people as well, and they're crying at a party, and you don't really know what they're crying about, but you're trying to be there for them, and you ruin your own party just to try to be there for them, that's typical healer. You want to feel purpose of doing that. But actually the best thing you can do, because you're a healer, because you do have the skills of changing the energy in the room, is you acknowledging the energy of the room and just allowing whatever it is to be there. So accepting whatever is. So if you find yourself doing any of these things I talked about, know that you are manipulating other people, and you know how it feels to be manipulated by other people. And you can be like, no, but I'm trying to do good. No, you're trying to do good because you were led by all the damage that you went through. So you're being led by the damage because you felt damaged in your past, and you had a narcissistic dad or a mom, or like a cousin or a brother, sister, or whatever. And so now you're healing everyone because you don't want someone to be like them. You don't want someone to feel down, because that's how you felt purpose. And it's super natural to feel this way. You have to understand that. But also, there's an invitation, since you're also seeing this video, there's a huge invitation to healing that part of you. So you're not a slave of trying to make everyone else feel good. Because really what it's about is you not feeling good yourself, and you're trying to fix everyone else because that makes you feel good, but only momentarily. But if people don't thank you or appreciate you or doesn't give you affection or affirming words after you spent 3 hours trying to fix them at a party, or let them cry and listening to them, and they'll be like, oh, thank you so much, well, I'm going home now, bye-bye, and you never hear from them again, you'll be like, fuck, I just wasted like 3 hours of my party just to, I should stop doing that, letting people take advantage of me, I shouldn't do that anymore. And if you feel that way of people taking advantage of you and never really saying thank you, or they're really not appreciating you much, you're driven by trying to please others to get that recognition and that attention. And that can and will become very toxic for you. It's going to keep you out of balance of who you are. And I know, because I'm an expert in healing everyone, trying to make everyone happy and joyful, and I'll spend my energy and I will even sleep for days after doing this at a party, because I forgot myself. I forgot to take care of my own energy and understand I'm holding space for everyone else, using myself as a tool. But all this has taught me, also because of the education as a clairvoyant, as medium, fortune teller, whatever you want to call it, I learned how my intuition works, and it never works with fear. Never. So the more that you train, and then this is the point of everything, the more that you practice and train yourself as you would in any muscle in your body that you want to feel. If you want to feel strong in your biceps, you use your arms, right? So if you want to train your intuition, you start, with different, you can Google this, there's so many practices you can do, but you can even let your friend write a name of someone that they know, and then you sit with that note folded, and you try to just play around with it, like a brainstorm of saying, this person feels like blah, 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 but stop cold reading them, thinking, oh, they probably chose their mother or father, or like, but instead just be like, doesn't matter who they were or are with this person, just start practicing those things. And there's so many things. Let me know in the comments if you want to know more about this. I'll give you more things you can play around with to better your intuition. But just to understand that you cannot be intuitive if you fear. Basically, you can be intuitive in a situation where you would have fear, like, fuck, there's a earthquake or something. And then you'll be like, I'll go out here. And then your intuition might actually work very, very well. Because that is the fight or flight response, can be like you actually fleeing and getting out of the thing, or fighting back, but being smart about it instead of just reacting straight away. But you actually don't overthink it, but you just have this feeling that you need to do this thing. So it's to tell you that every time we fear, we cannot know what is going on in the future. It's what keeps us back. And to touch ground on what I said in the beginning, of all these things, the pandemic we've been through, I've certainly found out that I probably have something close to PTSD, or something that gives me sudden fear of things without any really logic of what I fear. But I do have a lot of fear. It might not seem that way, but I realized lately, and actually also with some mushroom therapy, I realized that I actually have anxiety, and it stems from my childhood, from that dad that I talked about before, being so harsh and tough towards me. And so, I mean, it's how I learned to deal with that is to thanks for your comments again. How I learned this was actually through the fear of my dad. I could not be intuitive, but I turned when that fear went away, and I wanted to figure out how to avoid that fear and that pain that he gave me. I would actually listen to my intuition. So, and that would be typical, work way better when I was in school, feeling I shouldn't go to my home today. Well, I should wait until he calms down and get some food and, feels a little bit more tired and calm. Then I could go home. But if he was agitated, I would stay away. And it actually worked when I was doing other things. So this is another way you can realize what is your intuition and what is fear-based intuition. Because fear-based intuition doesn't really exist. It exists in a very, dramatic situation. But it doesn't exist if you're like, oh, I hope that if I get home that he doesn't want to hurt me. Oh, I think my intuition tells me that maybe should I do this or that? No, it feels like more like, it comes from overthinking instead of just being like realizing that there's something you want to do. There's something you need to do that's an invitation to help you. The way that I see intuition, and this becomes very spiritual, but I just want to tell you this. You have spirit guides. These spirit guides are usually on right behind you, and they're following you all along. It's not that they're physically there, but they're like floating somehow. It's how you can hear them. So sometimes intuition doesn't feel like it's an idea coming from I would say, well, it could be coming from your forehead because that's where the third eye is as well. But I mean, it feels more like a stomach feeling, or there's different ways of feeling intuition. Some people feel it by sneezing or burping. I have a clairvoyant that I know. She burps. When she burps, it's actually an invitation from her intuition. It's kind of her muscle spasm when she hears about something about intuition, like there's something that she has to say. So her clairvoyance is actually her burping the whole hour of her delivering messages. You'd be like, sorry. So they're trying to tell you that. That's quite funny, but it lightens the mood when you sit there. I don't burp in my clairvoyances, so don't worry. But so there's a lot of invitation of trying to learn how to distinguish what is intuition, what is fear. Fear is never overthinking. So intuition is usually you feeling about something, and then suddenly you get this idea, and it came out of nowhere. It's probably the more that you can try to turn back time, say, how did I get to think about this? Was it based on overthinking? Oh, I have a report for school tomorrow. Should I? Well, oh no, what if this happens? Maybe I could do this and that, and then you're suddenly like, I should bring my notes. And you'll be like, how did I end up saying? And you're like, it's my intuition, I should bring my notes, but it would be logical too. But I mean, and you're like, oh, that's what they're trying to tell me. It's you overthinking your way towards it. That's not a very balanced way. It's not a very balanced way to feel what your intuition is. Hang on. Cheers, guys. Of course, it's pure vodka. No. Yeah. So practicing that and understanding that it never comes from fear or worry, because if you see what the government did during the whole pandemic, they used fear, coercion, force, worry, news and misinformation to make you fear all the time. So you cannot listen to your intuition if you keep reading the news. And sometimes I post a lot of these things, that the news that is in the news, and saying like, this is actually not good for you, and if this happens, then this and that. I need to take breaks sometimes to just understand that if I step into that fear factor as well, too much, my intuition is going to get skewed because it's based on worry, fear, what can I do? And instead, it's much better to just take 10 minutes away from everything, sit in silence, even if you're overthinking. Just realize every time you notice you're overthinking, then be like, I'm thinking. Label it. It's okay. I'm thinking. We're all thinking. And at some point, you might have some silence in like 10 seconds, and that will really help you. Walking in nature is a really good idea to help your intuition. But what we did in my clairvoyance school, when I attended, it was actually meditating a whole lot. Also, actually dancing, because you shake things off. You shake your body out of all these emotions you have inside, and people would even dance some weird dances sometimes. It would trigger me so much, and I would think it was so weird. But then also accepting, okay, triggers are not a bad thing. It's just showing me where I can be embarrassed. And if I was to dance really ugly, I would, play a character, so it wasn't me. And, I would do these things because it was triggering me. But that just tells you about, like, when I feel uncomfortable, I will, play a role or compensate by doing something and make it funny. So for you to connect with this, it's walking in nature, it's meditation. There's an app called Calm that I recommend. There's an app called Headspace. You can even go on your Netflix account and find Headspace if you have Netflix. There's a bunch of places on YouTube you'll find free courses of how to meditate. Basically, meditation is not a skill. It's a skill that you will learn eventually. It will turn into a skill. But in the beginning, it's going to be feeling so boring and annoying. I even try to avoid it quite often, actually. But I like it so much when I've done it. But it's like, I don't know. It's like when you know you have to drink water, but you don't feel like drinking water, but you know you have to hydrate, and you have to kind of chug this water. But after you're like, and then 5 seconds later, you're like, that was actually nice. So it's kind of the same thing. You go through this meditation thinking, well, I don't need this. I mean, I just have to do all these things. But really, one thing that always helps me when I want to feel like meditating is think of my next thought. So that's to you. Try right now. Think of your next thought. Can you even do that? Because I can't. So that second or three silence that comes from think my next thought. And then if you start trying to be creative, trying to find out what you want to think about, then it's not your next thought, because then it's created by you wanting to create something in the void. So it's realizing the silence that is there is actually a really good tool for meditation. So that can actually start you off if you really feel like overthinking. I use that actually, or like now when I teach people how to do it. So, but then again, there's so much material that you can learn this from. Let me know in the comments now or later if you want to know more about these things and other tools. There's an app. I don't know if it still exists, but I actually liked it. It's called Buddyfy, Buddyfy, I think. And it has walking meditations. It has like dishwashing meditations. You know, you can do things while you meditate. But it's like listening to a podcast or listening to me without necessarily watching the screen. Someone is entertaining you, but meditation really is the silence that where you relax so much that you don't think about what you're doing tomorrow or what you did yesterday, but you're kind of in the now. So one thing I also do is like I pound my heart like that, like this. I kind of like just like my heart is here, it's pounding. And I feel where I click on my chest. I think actually my heart is down here, but I click on my chest and be like, I'm here now. I'm here with my heart. Or I try to feel my pulse. And that can be quite difficult sometimes. So I put it here or on my wrist and try to feel my pulse. And then is my heart like dum or like dum 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 or something like that. So it's literally just concentrating on one basic thing. It could be concentrating on your breath. So counting even like 1, 2 when you breathe out, and then you keep doing it until 10. And if you can keep your concentration counting without thinking anything, well done, because I can't do that very often. But it is very natural that you come to think of something. But eventually, when you do it often enough or long periods of time, you will empty your mind and you will see like the way you are in the world is so different. It's hard to even fear anything, because you're so aware that you are right here, right now. There's no tomorrow, there's no yesterday, there's only now. There's not even today, there's only now. It's like, and what I just said, the words and everything, the room that you're in, the sounds that you just heard, they will never be the same again. So why don't you just enjoy that? I mean, right now will never happen again. So realizing this and being more grateful about that moment can help you a lot by calming yourself down and understanding that that is how pain works as well. Right now, that amount of pain, that amount of sorrow or trouble that you have in your life, it will never be the exact same again. You will never experience it like this. When you feel that pain the next time, you can recognize that pain. And when you've done something so many times, you'll actually get quite good at it. That's how we become experts, right? That's why people go to school, to do something over and over and again. So if you have 10,000 hours of something, you are actually an expert. So this is kind of how I got to learn all these things. I went through so much pain. I went through so much, happiness as well, realizing that I understood it better and better. And it's like with everything, riding a bike or whatever. So practice your intuition and realize when you have fear. Find out what you're led by, because I have anxiety. And I realized this recently. I also did a podcast on fucking passionate. My podcast you find on markbronner.com. And you can find it in my bio as well. I realized I have this anxiety and it will pop up out of nowhere. So I'll go to the gym. I'll be like, oh, I can't put my back here. It's probably gonna get stolen. Oh, I can't put it in here. Oh, did I remember everything? Did I turn off the stove? Overthinking, I don't know. It's like I'm searching for something to be afraid of, something to worry about. And I haven't figured out why my mind is like that, but I think it's used to that. Because I just told you my story about my dad. I worried about, coming home, being home, what would be next. So he taught me that every time I'm enjoying something in my life, it can be taken away like this. But in some ways, it also makes me really enjoy the now, but it also gives me a little bit anxiety of what if I lose the thing that I have right now. So recently I had a talk with my girlfriend this morning, on the afternoon, I think, about that exactly, of me having anxiety of fearing losing her, which makes no sense. Why would I lose her? I mean, we don't have any problems, so we just have normal daily life things that everyone goes through. But I've had so much experience of losing people or losing things that I loved in my life. So it can even put, and maybe it resonates with some of you, like having something you really cherish can put a toll on you, because it feels like way worse to think maybe if I lose this thing. And that is stepping into fear. And fear creates anxiety. And when your body has trained or exercised that muscle that much, it can be activated very easily. And we actually have a part of our brain called the amygdala. The amygdala is the one responsible for the fight or flight reaction. So if someone scares you, like, boo, and you'll be like, you'll probably, or will be the one fleeing the scene. Or if you're like, oh, what? And you try to punch back, you probably see some of those videos on YouTube, someone trying to scare someone and they just get punched in the face. But that is a normal response. It depends on how you grew up and how your nervous system reacts to things and how your amygdala reacts. So people who've had, mothers who were very anxious or had a lot of stress when they were pregnant, they are actually more prone to having an amygdala that's a little bit bigger than others, because it's part of it's part of how the mother can affect a child. But you can have, learn skill sets of not getting into that anxiety. And the first thing is actually having some notion about when it happens. So when anxiety happens in your life and how to react to it and how not to react to it, or even just realizing I have an emotion right now and I'm just going to sit with it instead of being, oh, I don't feel good. I need to drink water. You know what? I'll just vacuum clean. No, I'll call my, that's anxiety as well. Instead of being like, I'm having anxiety, that's, oh shit, what do I do? Okay, I just breathe. That is, and I mean, it's so tough to get there. But for some people, it goes quick like this. It's like a muscle. When they find out, oh, I can actually do this, it works against my anxiety. And then they can actually fix it or help themselves a little bit better. So it's about creating awareness about how you feel and when you feel it, and then realizing it. So, because it's gonna ruin your intuition if you are in that mindset a lot of the time, and know that you have a muscle in your brain that's meant to help you flee and help you get out of situations very quickly. I talk a lot, and the reason I do this is because that's how I learn my emotions. I speak my emotions. And I realized this, so when I sit with an emotion, it's really hard because I feel like I need to speak about it or talk to someone. So I started talking to myself about it. Or just even noticing, having awareness that I need to speak because that's my survival mode. I need to say something, but I didn't grow up like that. I was very silent and very quiet as a kid. And I guess I'm compensating now. But really, it's It's understanding that if I feel that way, I feel I can't get over it without speaking, then I'm like so curious about what if I don't speak? What is the worst that's going to happen? What if I get a heart attack? Then my logic kicks in. I'll get a heart attack for not speaking? That's kind of crazy. And I realize that it's my anxiety talking because my logic knows better. And that's why breathing will bring you back to you being you. And that's why meditation is so important, because that is when you learn, that's when you're in a good state of mind. So don't just meditate when you feel sad or annoyed or something, but you will know when you meditate, when you're feeling good and you have like this routine every morning, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you want, you know how to meditate. So in a situation where you have anxiety or fear, you can breathe through it. You know this skill set that you have, that you practiced a lot, this muscle of meditation, as well as your muscle of fear, you know that works against that. And it's not to remove the fear, because the fear will always be there. It's something that you activate. But then it's easier to work with your fear and look at it as it is, something that you overthought, or like it resembles something, or it's like in a part of your emotional response to something. And we can talk about that another day as well, by having that some words or sounds can trigger an emotion. Like some people see a spider and it triggers their emotion straight away. They don't think, oh, there's a spider, maybe it comes and bites me. No, they just practice that sentence so much that now it's just an emotion. It's a response. So there's ways to change that response. It's actually doing the opposite. And what I did when I had anxiety that turns into depression, I learned from Tony Robbins, actually. Anthony Robbins, if you want to look him up, is really a skilled coach. But also a little bit, he's not for everyone because he's very American, but he's definitely very talented and great tools. Helped thousands of people, millions probably. He taught me in a course I did in Copenhagen to actually celebrate my losses. So meaning I spilled something on the floor, I'd be like, yes, I spilled something. Yes, 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 yes. I would jump up and down and feel so fucking weird and off and strange. But it helped. It helped because my usual response would be like, oh. And this whole body language would trigger my emotions, making me feel even more down, and feel even worse. And that would take me a day or two to get over. So literally 5 minutes of, and then breathing different. My pattern would be more stress breathing. All that would change my state of being, and I would be a victim of that state of being. So I could change it by actually reacting the opposite. And it took me a while to actually do it, because it feels very uncomfortable if you're not an outgoing person, that you'd be like, yes, I dropped the glass in the restaurant. But people think you're strange in 5 minutes, but if you laugh it off after, you'll be fine. One of the people in the comments here, Stina Sara, actually had Tourette's, and I think she has a little tiny bit of it still, but I hope it's okay I talk about you, Stina, because you're a great candidate about that. Tourette's, if you don't know, it's like saying random words that you don't really feel, or the thoughts that you have that you shouldn't say. So I think I'll translate it. She'll be like, dildo salad, which is like an amazing word. I've never heard that word from other than her. And think about how embarrassing it could feel for you saying something loud during in the supermarket or something, like how unpleasant that could feel for you. But actually practicing that, getting out of your comfort zone, can actually help you heal some of your anxiety. But do it in a day when you feel good and it's fun, and you do it as a challenge with a friend. That you both have to do it in a restaurant or something else. Because these things, actually, you realize that your world won't crash because of this. So it's part of the practice of understanding your fear response, and doing things that feels unpleasant or fearful can sometimes heal the fear. But it's not something I recommend if you really have a fear of spiders, that you go eat spiders straight away, because that might actually just give you more fear. But you think about eating them, and you talk about eating them, and you I'm not saying eat insects, by the way. I've tried that many times in Thailand, but I don't recommend it, especially not now when World Economic Forum says we have to do it. So that's when you want to know that you don't do it. So pretending to have tics like Stine Schauer, and I think you should go follow her. She has a lot of insights as well, but also you can see some of her Tourette's, how it works, so you can even Google things like that. But understanding that Tourette's can actually, Noveliutus says, oh my gosh, I couldn't eat a spider. See, that's where you start. So if you couldn't eat it, could you touch it? Could you hold it? Could you talk to it? Could you be near it? Could you even hold it in a bag or like on a paper? Even though it could crawl away and everything, but could you, find yourself even stepping close to a spider? A lot of women, especially that I know, have a tendency of running out the house if there's a spider in the house, not realizing there's way more spiders outside the house than there is inside the house. And every day they walk to work passing millions of spiders and not having any fear. But if it's in, the corner of the room, they'll be so fearful. So you see, fear is not logic at all. And it doesn't have to be logic, because it's illogical to fear something. It's illogical to have anxiety in the middle of a supermarket. What's that about? I'm just literally buying groceries. Why am I fearful? But it's probably because I'm stressed. There's something that triggered it. Maybe a child is crying in the background. Maybe someone had a comment that you didn't willingly, with your awareness, noticed, but you'll have a reaction to someone commenting about something. And then suddenly you have fear in the middle of a supermarket where you don't know why. Or you didn't eat that day, so your energy is lower, or you're not used to fasting, so your energy. I'm actually fasting today until just an hour ago, but because of the full moon, of course. But I mean, it's gonna help you understand why you feel fear, and it's not always why. That's not the most important thing. It's like it's eventually important understanding your why, but just understanding your fear first. Where does it come from? Where does it sit in my body? How does it feel? What would I like to do when I'm in fear? Do I want to run away? Would I just wish I could drop everything and just escape from the world? Do I just want to feel like lying under my covers at home and just crying? Or what is it? And some people can sit in their own home having so much fear, crying ecstatically, feeling like something is attacking them. But really, it's the nervous system attacking them. And that is actually just an invitation to, instead of fearing, sitting with it. And that's so easy to say because I've been through this myself. It's not something in the moment you don't want to change it. The more that you try to change it, the more the fear is going to be there. It's because it's telling you something. Remember this. Fear is only in your life because at one time in your life, it actually helped you. It helped you survive something horrible in your life, even if you don't know what it was. But probably some time or some place in your life, you overstepped a boundary and you didn't understand that you overstepped it, and you found out way later. But that can still feel like PTSD way later in your life, feeling like there's some anxiety, that you literally feel like you're at war with something and you don't know what it is. So remember that. There's only one reason why the fear and anxiety or bad habits are in your life. It's because they used to help you. But now it's probably not helping you anymore, because now it's just you realized it's anxiety. So it's not helpful. It just kind of limits you. But your body doesn't know. And until you teach it something else or creates awareness about why and how you use that fear response, then you would know how to eventually work with it. So it's like I said, I have actually OCD, not so much anymore, but you always will have OCD if you have it, but I'm not really a victim of OCD anymore. But if I have like something, I need to touch this thing 3 times or 5 times or 2 or whatever. For me, it was always 2 or 4 times, really strange. But it was like my mind was bored and I did all these things like, did I turn off the stove? And I went and checked, and it's turned off, and I leave again. I was like, did I even check? I can't remember. So that's clearly because we're in a stress mode and we try to control everything. So that's why, again, meditation will help you so much, because we cannot build anything from stress. You can just learn all your hard lessons and you can only feel so much pain, but you're not going to learn the lessons right now. You're going to learn them when you've done stressing, when you relaxed And if you feel that at some point you cannot get out of it and you don't have enough time to sit down with 10 minutes and spend that, it's a priority that you don't prioritize. And so I would say there's no excuse. I'm sorry to say this, but it's no news. If we don't do something, it's because we don't prioritize it. So put it into your daily routine, prioritize dealing with you and your own stress. If that's just meditation, if that's, 10 minutes of yoga every day, or stretching, or breath work even, then there's an invitation to that. We can't deal with any problems if we don't have calmness. So if you have been stressed for a while and you're still stressing and you even feel that I've touched on some of the points in this video, I recommend one very important thing. If you still work, you're still in a bad relationship. I'm saying bad, we don't have to call it bad, but you're in a relationship that takes a toll on you. If you're still struggling with your family, trying to compensate or reconcile with them or something, in general, any type of stress that's prolonged in a longer period of time, I recommend that you take at least a week off work, seeing friends, seeing family. Don't lock yourself in. If you know you need help, at least see a friend like 1 hour a day or something, or every second day or something. But do take time off. We cannot get better while we keep stressing. It's impossible. So the only way it's possible is you finding some common ground where you're like, oh, I can just push these 30 minutes in here. I could just deal with myself and just relax, read a book, be in nature, do breath work. That's great. That's a great beginning. But if you've been doing this for a while, it's not possible for you just, well, it is, if you placebo-wise, it's possible. You pretend you get some medicine or that you really believe it's possible, then it is possible. Of course, laws of attraction is super relevant. But long-term stress, like written in the comments here, is no good. Long-term stress ruins your life. And when you start feeling better, when you start relaxing, probably you either get sick or you get anxiety or you get more stress. It's very normal. It's very natural. It's your body acting to whatever you went through, but delayed, because you were so stressed that you can't put stress on stress all the time. So your body kind of compensates and stretches it out. But you will have cortisol in your body, meaning inflammations. Inflammations can lead to disease. Disease and stress can lead to death. And I'm not trying to speak about fear again, but I'm just telling you, you need to really be serious about who you are and what you want with your life. You are the only one in charge of this life. No one is going to help you. No one's going to save you at that point. If you end up being sick and getting some disease, you cannot be healed by just going to the doctor. You can be healed by collaborating with a doctor, or fibromyalgia you can get as well. I mean, there's so many diseases you can get, and you shouldn't be afraid of diseases, but you should be afraid of stressing long term. That is a known fact in any line of, coach or stress coach or doctors. They know that's a reason why doctors write these things so you can get off work. Calling sick is a very wise thing to do. Your boss's company or your own company is not so important that you cannot take time off. And that's why, I use my spirituality for this. I say that I trust that this is what I need to do, and I take time off. And I trust whatever comes is what I needed. But first, I have to show the universe that I'm being serious about this. That I actually, I'm not going to ask my boss to take time off. I'm going to tell them I need time off. I'm stressed. I don't want to end up at the doctor. I don't want to get, then I'll be sick for 3 months maybe. So let's work together in this. I need time off. I'm not going to, can I please get time off? No, that please is over. It's like, I need time off. I need to set a boundary here. And that's why it's so important as places we know how to find our own boundaries is by practicing that same muscle of saying no and actually getting time off. And there's so many things you can do. You can also talk to a coach. I also have, things that can, courses that can help you, and just in general, sessions that can help you. But in general, you need to take yourself serious. So eventually, if you want to know what intuition is and how to feel it, you cannot do that while you're stressing. So you cannot be that great wonder of yourself if you don't know how to say no, or you don't, know how to be in balance with yourself. And probably if you've been pleasing everyone your whole life, you don't even know the word balance. Balance is survival. And I've been there. I still am sometimes. But that's okay. We're all learning through pain. That's what I said during this whole thing. But just know that this is a huge invitation for you to actually be super serious about this. If you feel stressed about, like I do, posting about this whole pandemic thing that we just went through, and posting about how the injections can ruin our lives, and posting about how the government lies to you. If you do that all the time, you're practicing fear and propaganda and other things that's really equally not helping anyone, because you're also sharing fear. So that's why I use this profile to share life-loving things. And then I have another profile called Freedom in the End, talk about freedom, that talks about these other things. But it's important that we take breaks away from things, even in a relationship. I mean, in a loving, great, wonderful relationship, you need to spend time alone as well. And I'm saying need. I don't judge. I don't control your relationship, but I do recommend it. It is super important to spend time alone, to feel where's the boundaries of me and where's the boundaries of my partner. When do I end and my partner begin? And so if you've been together for a long time, it's even harder to figure out. So balance is not being egoistic and just pushing away everyone and just saying I can do everything myself. It's just having awareness that if you have a hard time being alone, maybe you should practice being alone. If you have a hard time being around people, you should probably practice being around people. Just so that you will end up one day, hopefully, having no fear at all and being accepting. And when you have fear, you'll be like, oh, I know this fear. I've been there before. So I know how to handle it. I don't really need to handle it because I know fear goes away. It's just an emotion that arrives, just like the present is an emotion. This, right now, you and I are in the present. What I've just said has just passed. It is in the past. So that's the same with emotions. They move through us, bad or good. The only reason why emotions are bad or good is because you're judging them. You're saying, this emotion, it's not good. I don't want that. That needs to pass. I need to try to push it away. But the more you focus on pushing that away, the more you put focus on the actual emotion. So it's like this glass arriving here. I try to push it away, but it's still in the house. I need to literally travel with this glass outside of this house to get rid of it. And when I've done that, I've used so much energy trying to move this that I've moved myself away from the present, which is me accepting this glass is here with me. I know it's a weird analogy, but really we have to understand that emotion passes through us, and it's okay that they're there. And realize that if it's a bad emotion, you just judged it by saying it's bad. Maybe that emotion is trying to tell you something. One of your greatest lessons in life might be something really hurtful, really sad, really annoying thing, but an emotion that passed and it wanted to pass through, but you kept holding on to, oh no, this is not good. What is this emotion? Get away. And it's like, you're eating some steak sandwich in the summer sun, and then this wasp keeps coming in and you're like, go away, I hate wasps. And I actually had anxiety towards wasps, and I would keep pushing it away, but I'm holding the steak sandwich that drags it in, invites it to come, because it's literally just thinking survival. It's what I need. It's what I want. Steak sandwich. He likes it. I'm going to like it too. And clearly it's so big, that sandwich, I'm going to have a bite. And, and I was still thinking like, oh, they're all over me, these wasps, and I hate them, and they're trying to, sting me or something. So I'll be in my fear, not enjoying my sandwich. And instead of being like, I'll put some sandwich away, I'll just notice where it is and be like, oh, there's my fear. It's flying around there. I see you, fear. Okay, there's no fear in my sandwich right now. I'm going to take a bite so it didn't sting me. And, I'll work through it that way. So emotions just pass by. Sometimes they come back. And I think the reason why they come back is because, oh, you're great at handling last time, or you pushed me away so much. So I'm back here because you still haven't learned. And yeah, so it's just a reminder there's no bad emotions. It's only your judgment that can be judging an emotion being bad or sad or annoying. So really, the more we understand our emotions, the more we can understand who we are and why they're there. And our emotions usually come because they're triggered, like I said before. So literally, emotions and fear can sometimes be history. It can actually be the only time where the past catches up with us and says, this thing in the past you haven't looked at that you try to run away, I'm staying here until you realize that this is actually part of your past, and then realizing, oh, this is my past. That's okay. I know this emotion, and you can kind of let it be and understand. Maybe it takes days, maybe it takes a few minutes. Usually, my experience, it takes a few minutes. That's it. Some of the worst emotions I have takes a few minutes. My anxiety can maybe sometimes take 10 minutes. But, the other day I was in the gym. It took me, I think, 1 hour for it to go away. But the only thing that worked, it's not that I tried to find a cure for it, but actually me running on the treadmill and then lifting really heavy weights because they were so heavy I couldn't even concentrate on my past and my fear. So they went away. I was like silently happy and like, what did I actually think about before lifting these weights? I was like, oh, right, I just had an anxiety. Interesting. Then it's not here anymore. So I hope you can use some of these tips. It has become a long video. Every time I say this is going to be like a short video or something, it never is. So anyways, I hope you're going to give me some feedback in the comments if you can use this for anything. If you feel that someone needed to hear this, I try to, as good as I can, be sharing openly with you guys, because I trust you guys that whatever messages is to be heard, you will hear them and you will listen to them. And if you're triggered by anything I say, there's still an invitation, because ask yourself why you're triggered. It's just an emotion inside of you against something I'm saying. It's something that you decided that there's an issue with whatever I said. So there's even an invitation to look at it yourself and thinking, why does Mark trigger me? It's super annoying. But I'm glad I do. I don't care if you just love what I say or you hate it. Both of it is actually healing. Thank you, Stina Sarah, saying for that. You are, as usual, very wise. Thank you. It's very sweet. And I think there's one comment I wanted to touch ground on too. This is the thing about eating spiders. That was a very strange suggestion from me. And Stina Sarah, my friend who has Tourette's, she actually touched a spider today, exposing herself to it. I think that's what she meant. Get the facts about the vax says, I like this name, fucking passionate. Yeah, that is that's what I embody. That is the name of my podcast. I am very passionate. And Batty says, I can tell you dancing is. I'm guessing dancing is really something that's good for you. If you want to, let's say you went, I'm actually going to use that great advice, Batty. I did touch ground on it. You can dance your way out of things. But if you went through a really harsh day, and I know a lot of women know this because they actually dare to do it. A lot of guys feel stupid sometimes doing it. But, and it's not going home masturbating. I'm sure that works too. But I don't recommend it because that, you would use masturbation to get off of feeling high. It is something you can change, and you can use that to change your emotion. But eventually, if you do that too often, you're going to have a bad reaction to sex. Actually, you will associate sex with something that you have to get off to get over it, and then you can actually get kind of addicted to sex in a very unhealthy way. So that's something retention is a really good thing to practice. Why actually not masturbating, not for a long period of time, just understanding how that feels, just like emotions, sit with it and see how you will not give. There's so much power in retention. I'm still practicing it myself. But dancing, as Batty said, dancing is really healthy to, let's say, go through a bad emotion or a hard emotion, tough emotion, fear, whatever it is. Dance it off. Literally put loud music on or whatever, headphones on, just go like crazy. It doesn't matter how you dance, how you look. You can even turn the shades if you don't want people to look, so you can actually concentrate on you and not overthink how the neighbor thinks of you. I would think about what the neighbor thinks of me. You wouldn't think so because I'm very outgoing, but I actually do think about those things a lot. But that's why I do it, because I'd rather than look stupid and then get out of that. So I won't overthink and be like, they can look if they want. So dancing is a really good idea. And then Claudine 2412 says, fear will lower the contact with intuition, so to speak. Yeah, fear will always lower the contact with your intuition. So that's kind of the point of this whole video. It's like, the more that you fear, the more that you don't deal with your fear, the more that you don't face your fear. And I'm not saying do it straight away. I'm not saying jump into the ocean with sharks if you're really afraid of sharks. I'm not saying that I should just go hang out with wasps every day if that's what I wanted to heal. I'm saying that get slow exposure and be wording how much fear do you have. From 1 to 10, how much do I fear this now? The spider sitting in the corner, it's like a 4. So I notice it's there, it's annoying. But some people will be like, there's a spider outside the door, and there'll be a fearing 10. They'll literally have their heartbeat pounding. And I think there's one more. There's Get the Facts About Vax. She says that they also know someone that burps when they use their intuition. So that's very common for some people, apparently, if they do clairvoyances. Like I said, I don't burp or anything when I do clairvoyances at all. Literally, all I do is speak even faster. It's just that you're telling he was drinking and it took him 2 to 3 days to get normal, like a person that would have bipolar narcissistic. I will never get normal, I think. Oh, yeah, but it doesn't mean that just because you're slow at recovering from alcohol that you're bipolar or narcissistic, if that's how you meant it. Anyways, I think that's I think I replied to the other comments. Oh, she also said, I know my mom was like that, just like your dad. I think I said that before as well. So that's, I'm glad it resonated with some of you guys that my story, it's a long life story. I've experienced much more than this, of course, and I'm willing to share this another day. But please let me know in the comments if you can use all these teachings for something. At least I shared my past, and as an invitation for you to share yours as well. Not only with me, you're welcome to reach out, of course, if there's something you want to share, a question. Anything other than that, I just want to repeat, share it with someone that you know that needs to hear this. And if you just jumped in during this live, I'll post it in a few minutes. And I encourage you to listen to it. Even, have fun with it, and just don't know what I'm talking about, and just jump straight into it somewhere on, rewinding or forwarding the video, and just see what I speak about then, and be like, maybe there's a message in this for me as well. Thank you guys for being patient with me in this a little bit long live, and I appreciate you all being there, and a lot of love to you guys, and I really appreciate you just being there. And since I'm shadow banned, I don't get a lot of people on lives, so that's why I'm encouraging you to share it. I'm still shadow banned by Instagram. They don't like me, and that's okay. The people that needs to hear it will hear it. I love you so much. I appreciate you so much, and try to be your authentic self, and we'll deal with the fear. And check out the video I just shared about Morgan Freeman. I posted on my Reels. It's about intuition, listening to your inner voice. I'll see you guys. Take care.